And now we've got the Pope, if we can move on to that, coming out and basically saying that ISIS is just like Jesus. This is his quote. You're not going to believe this.
I just had to get that dance out for me because we have this next guest and we need to get into professional mode. I'm glad we got the wiggles out. You know him. Everyone knows him. You can follow him on Twitter at Prison Planet. Glad to have him with us. Paul Joseph Watson, thank you for being here, sir.
Hi, Stephen. Good to be back.
No, I'm glad to have you. You know, when I tweeted out that this program, Ben Shapiro was going to be on and I think people thought you were both going to be on together, and there was like a civil war on Twitter. You and Ben are fine, right?
I mean, we're fine. He probably wouldn't agree to be on with me, to be honest. I mean, he was on Piers Morgan immediately after the Alex Jones thing, so...
Oh, okay.
I haven't attacked him at all, so I haven't got any problem with him.
But well, no, he agreed to come on with Milo. I think he's I know there have been some splits. Okay, let's start off with that. Doesn't it just kind of seem silly? You've been in this for a long time. How you've been pretty reasoned in your approach to Trump. I remember you talking on Rubin saying he wasn't even necessarily your guy, but you understood the value in what he did. So someone like you, do you get a little bit exasperated with the absolute destruction of conservatives over the Trump thing right now when we are looking down a double-barreled, hair-trigger social justice machine gun?
I think there's a level of hypocrisy there whereby, you have a lot of these conservatives, these more establishment types, and people who say they're, sticking to the Constitution. But, I mean, they sat back for 8 years of Bush. And he wasn't exactly aligned with the Constitution with a lot of things he did. And there was no revolt within the conservative movement really against Bush until very late on with the Tea Party, which actually sprang up, just after he'd left office. So again, Trump's policies, do they even really matter at this point? Do people really believe that he's going to build the wall, that he's going to place this temporary ban on Muslims? I don't think that is what is actually driving Trump's support. It's just the fact that he's a figurehead.
Well, I get all that, but I'm saying should conservatives and Republicans be like, it was just startling the reaction, like, oh, hopefully Ben Shapiro and Paul Joseph Watson destroy each other. I'm going, hold on a second, we're gonna have probably like D.L. Hughley on next week. Save your anger for him.
I don't think it's really in our interest to go and destroy each other. We don't want to be feeding on each other like piranhas, like social justice warriors do, like actual classical liberals who stand up, like J.K. Rowling. You wrote an article about that. She said, my freedom of speech rests on the freedom to call Donald Trump a bigot, and he has to have his freedom to say what he likes. She's going to get attacked by the left wing, no doubt, for making those comments. So yeah, we don't have to behave like extreme leftists. We can have differences of opinion and still remain cordial and not have this complete meltdown, which a lot of people seem to want because they're after this whole WWE spectacle where it's, a wrestling match or a boxing match or whatever.
Well, speaking of which,
there's room for disagreement.
Bernie voters, Bernie Sanders, this has been going on this week. A little bit of a violent bunch. Now, I've known this for a while because of the influence of big unions, and I went down to the Bernie rally, and I've listened to the rhetoric. But it seems like even the media now, they're kind of where I think the Republican Party is with Trump, and that they've resigned themselves to, okay, it's Hillary. And so now they have to acknowledge some of the glaring problems with Bernie voters, that they're violent inherently. Did that come as a surprise to you? Have you been reading up on that this week?
Well, how could they think that Bernie Sanders supporters weren't violent? Obviously, they're right at the start of this. But as he said, you could take that back to the Occupy Wall Street movement.
Right.
If you actually went out on the streets and asked those people how they intend to implement what they're calling for, if you go far enough down the rabbit trail, it's by force at gunpoint. This is what these people believe. They're violent radicals. If they were around in the 70s, they would have supported the Weathermen. So it comes as no great surprise. But of course, right from the beginning, several months back, this whole narrative was Trump is responsible for the violence at Trump rallies, despite the fact that all the video footage and evidence shows, and it has done in the following few weeks and months, that Bernie Sanders supporters were responsible for the unrest, punching Trump supporters in the face, spitting in their face, even punching police horses. We had numerous incidents.
Wait, they punched a horse? Was that on camera? Because that would get liberals mad.
Yeah, in New York.
And be hilarious.
How do you punch a horse? Where did they
Yeah,
punch
she
a
got
horse?
so triggered, she just lashed out at this police horse. It was amazing.
Did it punch the horse in the face, or was it a body shot going like a kidney
No, it was
punch?
in the face.
How do
It's
you
on
punch a
video.
horse in the face? It's like punching a wall. Oh,
Exactly.
That's
They'll
horrible.
punch anything. They'll punch anything that doesn't support Bernie Sanders. But we said from the start, these are the violent individuals. Why isn't the mainstream media talking about it?
Right.
So as soon as Trump secures the nomination, the media's, well, now we need to rally around Hillary to fend off this Bernie threat. And so they've been attacking Trump supporters, whether you support Trump or not. They've been violently attacking Trump supporters for months.
Right.
The very first time that anger, that violence is aimed at Democrats, suddenly the Democratic establishment is really concerned about it, and the mainstream media dares draw attention to it.
Right.
And it was in the Sacramento Bee today, but even in the very first paragraph of that article, they still described it as Trump-like violence.
Trump-like violence.
Yeah.
Punching a horse. She could have confused it for another feminist. Just thought it was like could have been a scuffle over a little Debbie. You never know. I want to give her the benefit of the
Benefit
doubt.
out is earned there.
Innocent until proven guilty. It is true, and that is one thing. Listen, I mean, anyone who watched the show knows I'm not a Trump guy. Like you said, I don't trust him. I saw a Supreme Court list. We've talked about that. I think it's pretty good. My issue is, do I think he'll pull from that list? Well, if he does, great. So I'm trying to be fair, but I have no real reason to believe that what he's saying today will be the same tomorrow. And I think that's reasonable. That being said, I was the first to say, no. This is where everyone has to defend Donald Trump when it comes to violent protests like we saw in Chicago, when it comes to banning him from the UK. And so I think ultimately in being a bombastic dick, he's a great unifier in that sense for people who support free speech.
Well, exactly. He's a lightning rod, isn't he? I mean, the American political system hasn't seen a figure like him for decades, if ever. So that's where his support is coming from. It's not really about his policies. If he actually plans to follow through on them, it never has been. But yeah, this media narrative ran for months. I mean, we had quite prominent rappers releasing videos and singles, kill Trump, take him out, fill him with hollow point bullets. Those songs were celebrated by the music media as, quote, viral protest songs.
Right.
People on Twitter, assassinate Trump, assassinate Trump. The guy running up on stage trying to attack him. We were saying all along, look, whoever you support, this is unacceptable. Why is the media propping this up? The same as they propped up the riots in Ferguson. As soon as it turns against them, now they're all panicking. Now Feinstein is out on CNN saying it's going to be like Chicago in '68. So, I mean, it's hilarious for me to see, for them to pretend that they've only just figured this out, that Bernie Sanders supporters are violent.
No, you're absolutely right. Cher was tweeting out about, getting threats from Bernie voters because she just misses Hillary, and she was the one. Remember the Cher fans, not gay, Jared?
They were the worst.
If you think like angry hipsters or any faction is more aggressive than queer Cher fans, you do not know how angry social media can get. They came after us. I remember
for a meme. It was for a meme.
It was for a meme about her talking about the Islam thing. She made some stupid quote about
really
Islam.
stupid tweet or something like that. We just kind of capitalized on it, and they were just savage.
Remember that guy you sent us the Cher wall? He had
it was
like a
shrine.
Cher wall. Sorry, Paul. It was like a whole wall. Like this, his rebuttal was like, "Why would you say this about the Queen?" And he sent us a picture of an entire shrine of Cher.
Oh God!
So this is how they argue. Yeah, you're right, and I think the media has known this for a while with the Bernie situation. The Karl Marx video that we've released this week talks about just that, and we talked about it when we wrote about it when that story broke. At the end of the day, capitalism, free enterprise, at its absolute worst, can only function through voluntary transaction. It has to. Socialism, big government, can only function through coercion at gunpoint. It has to. So when they're saying the people's revolution, make the rich pay their fair share, what they're really saying is, if that guy doesn't do exactly what I want him to do, send in the guys with guns to put him in jail. And when you follow it down that logic trail, well, of course Occupy. Well, of course Black Lives Matter. Well, of course Bernie protests. Well, of course Woodstock. They've always been violent and disruptive. It's the rule, not the exception. So then it comes down to, do we believe that the leftist media is ignorant, or are they complicit and they're politically expedient? I think that's the question it comes down to, right?
Well, for me, they're complicit. I mean, Time magazine, in defense of looting. We saw that throughout the Ferguson uprising. You can take it back to the 70s. You had Larry Grathwohl, the FBI agent who was tasked with infiltrating the Weather Underground. He was asked, what were they talking about in these secret meetings? Well, they said, if the Americans resist, if the conservatives, if the pro-capitalists resist, what will you do? Well, we'll take them to re-education camps. But what will you do if they still don't conform? Well, we'll just kill them. And that extreme leftist violent fringe has been around since there's been a leftist movement in the United States. And, you know, a lot of Bernie Sanders supporters are just hipsters, just trying to be well-meaning liberals. But there is that contingent, and it's the most militant, the most vocal, that does have this propensity to violence. And as he said, it goes back to they believe that their ideas should be enforced by coercion, by the state, and ultimately by violence. So it's no surprise that we've seen that.
Well, it's so funny. We're talking about this, and it's in this Karl Marx. I'll send it to you. Karl Marx rebuttal video that goes up this week. There's this Karl Marx video that's going around, and it's seen this huge resurgence. It was uploaded in 2014, right? Not gay, Jared? 2014.
I think so, yeah.
And it was actually your little brother who said, can you do a rebuttal to this? Because they're showing it
Everyone's
in schools.
talking about it.
And if you look at the comment section, it's nothing but Bernie people, right? And these are the same people who get furious at people like you and I and say, don't conflate communism and democratic socialism. But you're the one who's sending around the Karl Marx video talking about how he was it's the exact same people. At the end of the day, if you look at Karl Marx and what he believed, it's not far from Bernie Sanders at all. And of course, people can say whatever they want. It's a violent ideology. Karl Marx was it needs to be implemented by force and violence. So I'm astounded that this is a surprise to anybody. And you can't protect yourself in out there in Europe.
No, and remember the Bernie Sanders campaign tried to clamp down on those T-shirts that they created with his face and, you know, Stalin, the hammer and sickle. They tried to clamp down on that. So they've obviously been concerned about the comparisons from the start. But again, it's this media response to what happened in Nevada. The Sacramento Bee article, their subheadline is, in Nevada, Trump-like anger boils over at state convention. And again, in the first paragraph, they say that Democrats don't want to admit it, but Trump isn't the only presidential candidate recklessly courting an angry mob.
Yeah.
So they can't get past the subheadline in the first paragraph without blaming what Bernie Sanders supporters did, not even at a Trump event, on Donald Trump.
Right.
So still they can't seem to let go of that narrative. But I mean, I asked the question on Twitter earlier today, could the Trump card, no pun intended, be, you know, Hillary picking Bernie as her VP?
I resent that. That pun was entirely intended. Don't you try and pull that.
But he's made positive noises quite recently, actually, over becoming her VP. And people were like, well, no, he would never compromise his beliefs to do that. I reckon he would. I reckon he would say, well, we can still have an influence. And then, of course, that would allow Hillary to get this mass of voters, the majority of whom said they would rather vote for Trump than Hillary. Whether they're actually going to do that, I don't really believe so. But
no,
that would allow Hillary to corral this huge mob of voters around her cause and help her defeat Trump. So I think that's still not out of the equation.
I think it is. I think it is just because Bernie doesn't carry any states, and he's a 102-year-old socialist Jewish man. So he's
got a lot of energy.
He was 101 last week. That's crazy.
101
last week, just last week.
101. Oh, by the way, we have to go to a break, so we'll bring him back. But you read about the Burlington College, right? When is going under because of his wife?
No, what's that?
Oh, okay. We'll have to talk about that when you come back from the break. I was raised in Montreal, so right north of the border from Burlington, Bernie Sanders territory. Oh, you're going to love this. You are going to love this, Paul. Paul Joseph Watson at Prison Planet. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned. Louder with Crowder guitar riff. Having a party in studio. Glad with this next guest. I always get excited when I can reveal to them a story.
Kaboom.
Not a lot of places covered this. We covered it at louderwithcrowder.com. You can follow all of his wonderful stories following him at Prison Planet. Paul Joseph Watson. Okay, so before the break, you didn't cheat and go Google this, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay. You never know. Sometimes that'll happen. We had, what was his name? That little gay guy who was debating. Harrison Greenbaum.
Oh, yeah, he was like Googling stuff.
He was like Googling stuff. Like, well, I think this is
I'm really sure.
incorrect.
Oh, well, just Google it just says top search.
Yes. Okay, so Burlington College is in Vermont. And we used to see the commercials when I was raised in Montreal. Come to Burlington College, a local college. Jane Sanders was the president of Burlington College, or dean, president, anyway, in a position of authority where she was in charge of the finances. So she incurred a lot of debt. Long story short, Burlington is closing its doors. Burlington College, under the tutelage of Jane Sanders, they have no more money. It's run out. So when Bernie Sanders says free college for everybody, we have the blueprint. It's what his wife did at Burlington College, which is no more. How perfect is that?
Well, I mean, we see that in the United Kingdom, people campaigning all the time for free college tuition. Well, who's going to pay for it? They don't even make the connection that taxpayers are going to pay for it. And of course, that's not their immediate concern because they're not too into employment, so they don't really care about that. But it's like, Missouri after the big protest, that's all melting down now. They're having trouble with funding. And, it's because these places are not running anymore on a capitalist free market model, and people aren't as attracted to, having their education there. I know a top employee, I just found out about this yesterday, a big university in Britain, who was hauled into a meeting and given a dressing down and threatened with being fired simply for retweeting my posts. Like, he retweeted a Telegraph article about Caitlyn Jenner, laughing at the fact that she was a conservative and that had triggered a bunch of leftists. He was hauled in. He's gay, and he was basically told,
He's probably just retweeting you for the baby blues. He didn't know the crap storm he was walking into.
Yeah, but he was basically told, look, we've got a lot of Saudi Arabian students who are going to be offended by you tweeting these posts about ISIS throwing gays off buildings and stuff like that. So
also, that is the most offensive part of that story.
Yeah, also, these same Saudi Arabian students are offended by your gayness. So let's do away with that as well.
So again, they're trying to straddle this impossible thing about, we're vehemently pro-LGBT, and yet
probably
we don't
straddling
want to
a lot of
offend
things.
the precious Muslims.
Yes.
And now we've got the Pope, if we can move on to that, coming out and basically saying that ISIS is just like Jesus. This is his quote. You're not going to believe this. It is true that the idea of conquest is inherent in the soul of Islam. However, it's also possible to interpret the objective in Matthew's gospel, where Jesus sends his disciples to all nations in terms of the same idea of conquest. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't remember reading in the Bible, Jesus beheading people, forcing them into sex slavery, forcing them to pay a tax if they don't convert to Christianity. I don't recall reading that.
That was a great chapter. I can't believe you missed that.
I believe it's in there somewhere near the back. No, and that's the perfect thing. Even, Christine Hoff Summers, when I was there at the triggering event, she came on this show and she said she wished I would soften up on Islam and on Muslims. I said, I don't attack Muslims. I don't. I go after Muhammad. Muhammad was a terrorist, and no one, and we've invited people on the show, have given me a convincing enough case otherwise. And so I think if the fact that the Pope is going to Jesus as an example, without a sense of irony. I mean, the only reason he should be going to Jesus to contrast Jesus with Islam would be contrasting how much more peaceful and how much more loving Christ was compared to a serial murdering pedophile like Muhammad. I mean, I'm not Catholic. We have a lot of Catholic listeners on the show, and we do have a lot of good Catholic listeners We have a lot of Catholic listeners who don't like this Pope either. They wish he would stay to issues of spirituality. But this almost seems like it's in the real house of spirituality. Do they believe he's infallible on this? Are you Catholic? You're not Catholic, are you?
No, but I mean, he's comparing ISIS with Jesus.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, what the hell is going? Then, Italy is now begging its citizens to have babies, of course, because in the West, nobody's having babies. It's demographic suicide, like Russia. So the Pope came out and said the answer to that is to bring in more Muslim migrants who will then interbreed with Europeans, which is precisely a mirror image in the rhetoric of this top imam, Sheikh Mohammed Ayed, who I've featured in my videos a few times, who got up at a Jerusalem mosque and basically said, this whole migrant crisis is about conquest. Europeans, their fertility is declining. We're going to go over there and conquer them by having children with them. Now the Pope comes out and says basically the same thing as this radical Islamist preacher. So, I mean, what the hell is going on as Italy begs its population to have children? It's absolutely astounding.
Well, it is astounding, but at the end of the day, whether it's Italians breeding or Islamic migrants breeding, either way, you're getting a hairy baby.
This is true.
That bridges the racial divide. We are the world. Hold hands. Hairy Italians and Muslims. Okay, I want to keep on that path, but you haven't heard this story. Another story. I love it when I get to do this. Blake Lively, the outrage, front page HuffPo. You know what? And Jared, you can bring this image up. We can give you a little bit of eye candy there, Paul. She Instagrammed LA face with an Oakland booty. See, because she has a quite plump booty.
All right, I see it.
So everyone's furious. Of course, they're saying it's racist. I mean, there's not much more to it than that, but Oakland Booty is apparently racist. Cat B tweeted, another day, another rich white woman using WOC's body as a punchline and commodity, as if Blake Lively wasn't the worst already. I want to follow Blake Lively just to unfollow her after this Oakland business. So much privilege, even GOOP feels uncomfortable. Just in case you weren't familiar with the term, Oakland Booty, Paul, is because black people tend to have larger posteriors than white people, and Oakland is largely populated by black people. So that was the reason for the comment.
So they're saying that it's racist appropriation because she's got a large ass.
Yes. The most beautiful woman rated most beautiful person in America with a large ass. They're mad because she gave credit to black people, saying, "Hey, I don't know where this lines up on the fat shame scale, body pride."
I think,
My God, Walton's got it though.
The guy who got assaulted for having dreadlocks and was culturally appropriating black people, the little weakling hipster guy, I think it even tops that.
Yes.
But I mean, it ties into this whole Whiteness History Month. Have you seen this coming out?
No, we have to go. We have to go.
Okay.
Paul Joseph Watson at Prison Planet. Stay tuned. Louder with Crowder. You hold on, sir. Okay, you were saying something before we left. We were talking about Blake Lively's ass, and then you said something before we had to cut you off.
Yeah, it ties into this Whiteness History Month. This is at Portland College over the past 6 weeks or so, this series of classes on how evil white people are, obviously. So they had this class where this professor's talking about the importance of meeting someone eye to eye when it's a white person meeting a person of color. And basically the students start prostrating themselves and desperately virtue signaling, agonizing over whether smiling at a black person is a racist microaggression. And you can actually go and watch the clip. And they're basically like, so what am I supposed to do? If I smile at a black person, that's what I've been told is a, quote, white guy smile. And that I'm only doing it because I'm secretly racist and trying to overcompensate for it. And they're like, what if I see a black gang in front of me of like 20 people and I cross the street? What if that offends them? Should I then go back over to the other side of the road and explain to them why I crossed the road or why I smiled at them or why I didn't smile at them? And it's just, again, this total prostration, this total white guilt, which is being rammed down people's throats, again, at the university level. And it's completely insane. If you look at the actual history of slavery in America and slavery all over the world and realize that, you know, white people ended slavery. White people were the victims of slavery. Black people were victims of slavery primarily from Muslims. It was far more brutal for far longer time.
Right.
But of course, you don't get Muslims feeling Muslim guilt over their involvement in slavery. You don't get Brazilians feeling guilt over their involvement in slavery.
Oh my gosh, and they're still racist.
Most of the slaves went to South America.
Yeah, you know, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I have a lot of Brazilian coaches, and they don't even realize how racist they are, and they'll always tell me about how much less racist the United States is compared to Brazil. A lot of people don't understand. There was a huge dynamic when Anderson Silva, black guy, fought Vitor Belfort, you know, sort of Spanish Brazilian, and it was a big thing because there was a real. You're still often seen as a second-class citizen as a black person in Brazil. Yeah, that is. I guess the solution is just to not smile at gang members. And I don't know. I guess convert to Islam and
wear the right colors.
Rape the other minorities. Seems like at that point would be more appropriate than smiling. You don't want to offend them. I don't know what the rules are anymore.
It's just the way they were agonizing over it and thinking, well, if I do smile, that's a white guy smile. I'm only doing it because I don't want to offend them, and that's a racial microaggression. So again, it's this complete insanity. They're so uncomfortable in their own skin, and it's complete BS. It's completely indoctrinated into them when history shows that they've got nothing whatsoever to be guilty about. You know, more free blacks owned black slaves in America than white people, like 28% to 1.4% of whites at the height of slavery who owned black slaves.
Yeah.
These facts are there. They're on the record. Yeah, it's all about emotion. It's all about virtue signaling. And yet they buy into this time and time again.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, slave owning ain't easy, mama. Slave owning ain't easy. I think it is. It's one of those things, and even then, you're so far removed. None of us should have to apologize for any of it. I certainly don't want to go the other side where you have people they go on Twitter and they think they're being clever, like, why don't black people apologize? I'm like, just stop it. I don't want anyone to apologize for something that happened hundreds of years ago. Okay, I don't want black people to apologize for their forefathers, just like white people shouldn't. And then they go too far the other way. Yeah, we did write about that in Oregon. Is it Portland College or is it Portland?
Portland, yeah.
Yeah, Portland. I don't want to get that wrong because someone will correct me. No, Oregon is Portland. Like, okay, because there's also Portland, Maine. Like, okay, and you work for the New World Order, and then we go down that path. So, oh, you know it all too well. I would imagine black women like a little bit of Paul Joseph Watson with the baby blues and the swooping hair. They're probably really really into you.
I don't know. I guess so.
Would you not have any black female friends who tell you? I can't believe we've had a guy like this on the show. He's so disconnected. Gosh. He's so out of touch with black culture.
He's just so humble.
I mainly just get 40-year-old women with 3 children stalking me. That's generally my crowd.
Well, that is.
I'll talk to my mom later.
I was writing about this week when the guy from Hall & Oates, Daryl Hall, talked about cultural appropriation. I don't know if you read that interview with the guy from Salon, and it was just he just beautifully smacked down the Salon writer about cultural appropriation. This is the music I grew up with and I sang. People who think that it's racist should just shut up. And I was talking about it. The first time I really got into Hall & Oates was a Houston cab driver who was a black guy was playing them, talking about how much he liked them. And when I wear a blue shirt and glasses, he goes, "Oh man, I didn't know I was picking up Clark Kent." When I wear a blue shirt and glasses, I have gotten at least half a dozen black people telling me I look like Clark Kent. Because apparently all big white guys in glasses look like Clark Kent. And it could just be my white privilege, but it doesn't offend me. I actually just go, well, yeah, I can see it. Tall white guy, relatively large, brown hair, glasses, Clark Kent. I don't need to start a march. So I would imagine it's the same thing with you, where they probably all think you look like, I don't know, Chris Hemsworth.
Well, I know I get a lot of northern shaming over my accent. That's the main thing. But I can struggle through life with that grievance on my shoulders, and brave through it.
But mostly the Chris Hemsworth thing.
Mostly, well, Milo made fun of his northern accent
really?
when he came on our show.
I don't know the difference.
Yeah, he said that there was no internet in Sheffield where I lived up north. That was a low blow.
It was a low blow. Milo specializes in low blows. So I wouldn't take it to heart too much. Okay, well, Paul, we will go. Where is the best place for people to find you?
Paul Joseph Watson on YouTube or at Prison Planet on Twitter.
Did you change your YouTube handle? I thought your YouTube used to be Prison Planet. No.
Well, I changed the name of it, yeah, but you can still find it the same way. It's the same thing, basically.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because YouTube, I think, allows you to do that. And I was going, wait, did I get this wrong the last time I got a plug? I do recommend you watch his videos. Check him out. And next time we have him on, oh, damn it. I wanted to get specifically into that video you posted about. Was it mind your skin pigment? What was it? The girl was beating up the other girl. What did she say?
She said, be aware of your skin tone while she was smacking the girl in the face. Like I said on Twitter, if that was reversed, it would be a national news story. Yeah. As it is, it's just some random video on the internet.
I still have to give props to, in the middle of a brutal beating, having the forethought to still make it about race. So at least she was clear with her motive. Paul Joseph Watson at Prison Planet. Thank you very much, sir. Everyone go follow him. We'll see you soon.
Hey, everybody, click my face to subscribe to the channel.
Or my face, or you can click one of these playing videos in boxes next to us. I can't see them yet. They're going to be edited in post, but that'll take you to the full show. Trigger warning there. Don't go if you actually have to heed that trigger warning.